Good morning, and it's so nice that you would view today. Hey, I know it's a little bit early and it's a different time. I usually start this about 9 o'clock, but however, we have somebody coming to service our air conditioning at 8 o'clock. Well, it's not our air conditioning, our electric panel. And it's going to be no power here at 9 o'clock when it's time to um, get started. Hi, Steve. When it's time to do my program. So what I do on Saturday mornings is I do readings from my books, and the book that I'm reading from now is the yet to be published book called Oxytocin. Oxytocin is the O in love, and I've already read the introduction to you. And I have already, hi Jason, and I've already read the second part. And there's a link there to catch up on past readings. And unfortunately, it's not in print yet, but it will be soon. All right, I'm going to begin my reading with a section called The Wall of Protection. It's a really important part of my thinking process. So let me share this with you. One gift that our ancient ancestors left us in our DNA is the gift of survival. Our ancestors were good enough at surviving that they were able to gift you their DNA. Safety slash survival is the most important thing that you can do to ensure that your DNA is passed to future generations. Our bodies naturally and automatically kick in to survival mode in the presence of any threat, even if the threat is our spouse or our loved one. This drive to survive existed in animals even before human beings came on the scene. Emotional disconnection, the Oxytocin book is about how to maintain and sustain your emotional connection. Emotional connection is a survival safety mechanism built inside of us. When I hear someone say, quote, I love him, I don't love him like I used to, end of quote, I know that the emotional disconnection survivor safety mode has kicked in. This is not a rational process. It's not a rational process. It's a natural process made at even a deeper level than a rational process. She may not even be able to articulate why she feels this way. In her primitive human self, she is in a safety mode, running from a grizzly bear. On the other hand, our beautiful, magnificent neocortex will have a different opinion about what's going on. Neocortex may see that he's not a grizzly bear. Neocortex thinks that she should be able to figure out this relationship problem. That's what the neocortex does. Figures things out, solves problems, creates new options. All that is good and well, but the neocortex is in conflict with her primitive need to be a survivor and safe. This creates a conflict in the mind that, now that I mention it, just about everyone who has ever had an emotional disconnection can identify with. It's the internal struggle between the need to keep safe on the one hand and the desire to fix the problem. What's interesting is that neocortex may win the conflict rationally. But if her primitive self still feels the threat, part of her is still living in a cave, and there will be an emotional disconnect. So even if the neocortex says, "Hey, you can figure this out; it's all good," the amygdala says, "Wait a minute, this is not safe," and so there's this conflict going on inside of the brain. Many people can actually feel the brain conflict, but not be aware of it or be able to articulate what their brain is doing. They know they can figure things out, neocortex, and still not feel safe, primitive brain. The conflict makes one feel crazy, like, what's wrong with me? Actually, nothing is wrong. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And now that you're aware of it, and you can find safety for yourself, your primitive brain, and you can plan for the future, your neocortex. That ancient desire to keep safe and to survive has a name. I call it the wall of protection. It's the unconscious barrier that you erect to keep safe, even in your own home. You may not be aware that the wall of protection has been erected. It's an unconscious, natural human function rooted deeply in your primitive brain. It comes from a different place than the neocortex. And as I mentioned, the two parts are in opposition. Isn't this fascinating? Some people refer to this mechanism as defense. Okay? So if you had Psychology 101 in college, you've heard of defense. I'm sure that the inventor of the term defense felt that it was a good way to describe the mechanism. However, these days, being defensive has a strong negative connotation. Just try telling someone you're being defensive and see what kind of response you get. So I eliminated the term from my vocabulary when talking about people and the way that they protect their self. The way that I see this mechanism is designed to protect the self from harm, real or imagined, a way to seek safety. So I call it protection, the wall of protection. Just as some see defense as pathology, just as some see defense as pathology needing therapy, I see protection as a natural human response needing safety. In fact, it is more than normal. It is a gift, a life-sustaining gift designed to perpetuate the species. Protection is essential for safety. Safety is essential for productive living. It's not only being safe that our ancestors were able to pass on to us. It is a life-giving DNA to us. It's not only being, and it's only by being safe that we can pass DNA to our future generations. So the wall of protection is a magnificent, beautiful aspect of life in the universe, and it's essential for the continuation of humanity. Therefore, when I behold the wonder of Jennifer's wall of protection, my lovely, beloved spouse, I acknowledge it as a magnificent gift, and I humbly honor it. I do not see it as a threat to me. I see it for what it is, her self-protection. Huge key right there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to understanding relationships. And when people are protecting themselves, by the way, I'm asking you not to use that word defense again, or not to say to somebody else, you're being defensive, because all that does is make it worse. This mindset, honoring the wall of protection instead of pathologizing defense, is felt by the owner of the wall. And it helps the owner of the wall lower their protection, come out of the cave, and reemerge into the world feeling safe again. She is not sick. She is a human. and magnificently so. Some people never come out. This is an interesting observation, so listen to this. Some people never come out of the cave. The world is never safe for them. They perpetually live in a cave. It's not nice or pretty in a place where you want to bring your friends. This cave is just safe, and that's where they need to live until dot 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 they're certain that the grizzly bear, whatever that may be that caused them to erect their wall, is gone. But they are certain that he's just outside, ready to do whatever grizzly bears do to people. And their wall of protection is perpetually erected. The perpetual wall is rare. I think there's a safety continuum in people's minds. On one end is threat, and on the other end is complete safety. In the middle is relative safety. For most people, relative safety takes up a lot of room on the continuum. It's wide. For others, relative safety is very small on the continuum. If you have lived in an unsafe environment for a long time, there is little relative safety. Here, think of people born into slavery or oppressive poverty. The only life that they know is one of constant vigilance, always aware that harm may come at any moment. Viktor Frankl. A lot of people quote Viktor Frankl, and I was listening to a podcast, and some of the most important thinkers and writers in the world think that his book, Man's Search of Meaning, is one book that needs to be read by everybody. I'm going to share with you a little bit different perspective about Viktor Frankl and his search for meaning. Viktor Frankl wrote, "Say yes to life in spite of everything," which became Man's Search for Meaning. After surviving several years of horror during Nazi oppression, including months in a death camp, his psychological, philosophical guide has inspired generations. Prior to his unthinkable opposition, his unthinkable oppression, and his death camp experience, Frankl was raised in Vienna and trained as a physician, where he experienced relative safety. His inspirational story is another example of anti-fragility. It's an important word for me. I hope that you learn it. If you've never heard of it before, please Google it. The human ability to gain dramatically after suffering significant loss. Have you ever wondered what life is like for less fortunate people who were born into extreme oppressive slavery and or poverty? Their only frame of reference is constant life threat. They have no education, no training, no life experience that informs their thinking. Their experience is different from Frankl's experience. Frankl knew, prior to his concentration camp experience, knew relative safety, was privileged with education and life, and experienced life in progressive Vienna prior to his death camp experience. His total life experience, the good and the unthinkable, informed his perspective. Imagine only knowing slavery, poverty, oppression, and the constant threat of harm, witnessing brutality, summary executions even, every day of your life for as long as you can remember, and this being your only perspective of life. For these, survival is a moment by moment, day by day, and the only freedom is death and their hope of a better afterlife. This has been the experience of more people than I care to think about. For those who do survive and are able to pass their DNA forward, the effects of their lack of safety, their oppression, endures for generations. If these were somehow able to escape, to be freed from their slavery, how would they be able to adjust to a new life? We naturally assume that they'd be able to adjust and be like us with time and support. I hope this would be true. I believe that people are anti-fragile. Yet, I am aware that coming out of a decades-long, extreme, horrible life experience makes a difference in how one or a people approaches life, even generations after the oppression. How would one of these people ever be able to emerge from their cave? How would they ever be able to lower their wall of protection? My point is this, that people's wall of protection must be honored and respected. It is a fundamental aspect of humanity. Further, I can never presume to fully understand what another's experience of the wall is like, or have an expectation of them lowering their wall. Yes, I know that there are 5 life stressors. I mentioned them above. Yes, I know that most people can fit somewhere on the continuum of relative safety. And what I do not know is if they have a life experience to cope and to recover from the stressor, or just how profound their experience has been. We assume that they should be like us and lower their wall. But what I'm saying is that we can't make that kind of a judgment or think that there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're having a normal human experience. They're simply and merely protecting themselves. Have you ever noticed that when you walk up a flight of stairs, your heart rate goes up and you breathe harder? You may think that you're out of shape or, quote, I think I'm going to have a heart attack. Quote, there's nothing wrong with you. Your increased heart rate and your respiration is your body's adjusting to the situation. After a few moments, your body returns to normal breathing. You don't think much about it, and neither do the people around you. This is the way it is with the wall of protection. It's merely your body's reaction to a situation. You may notice the stress. You may even get, quote, stressed out, and your wall of protection may go up. There's nothing wrong with you. Your body is reacting to a situation. My point is, most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, the situation will resolve and your wall will go down and you will recover and continue on. Unfortunately, many people regard the wall as defense. Defense is strongly rooted in our culture. Remember from above that culture can be a powerful stressor. Culture says there's something wrong, not right, diseased, needing therapy, flawed character, defensive, about the person. Ironically, thinking that people are defensive only enforces the need for the wall of protection to remain up. There is a problem associated with the wall when it remains up longer for a longer period of time. When the wall of period is down, there is a free flow of energy between people. They're able to actively engage with each other, to laugh and to play, to smile, and to enjoy just being with each other. The wall, when it's up for a long time, disturbs the flow of energy between each other. This withdrawal from the other, this disruption of the flow of energy, is the beginning of an emotional disconnection. When the emotional disconnection happens, it may or it may not be noticed. I'm only going to read one more paragraph, so bear with me. I think this is fascinating. I hope that you're enjoying it as much as I do. When the emotional disconnection happens, it may or may not be noticed by both people. Recall from earlier that different parts of the brain are involved in this process. The primitive fear and the safety part may be active, but the managing problem-solving neocortex may be distracted by other thoughts, or processes may be overridden, ignored, or give credence to the fear and the safety messages. This is what happened when Jennifer became emotionally disconnected with me. It's in the introduction of the book. Her wall of protection was up. Our financial condition was stressed, and most of my life-giving energy was directed towards my work and my work relationships. We had money pressures and community pressures, and it strained our relationship. Her reaction to the pressure was the wall of protection going up. My reaction to the pressure was to divert my life energy to my community. Our emotional connection was broken. When the wall of protection is up and the flow of vital life-giving energy is directed elsewhere, this is a common dynamic called triangulation. I'm going to stop reading there and I'll continue that next week. I hope that you enjoyed the reading today, and I will post this to YouTube, and you can read the prior readings there as well. On Sunday mornings around 9 o'clock, I do another program. It's on a different Facebook page at Rev B. Martin, and where I take the gospel lesson from the Revised Standard, what is that called? It's this one right here. Lectionary, the Revised Common Lectionary, and review the gospel lesson for the week. And I invite you to join me for that. It's a program that I call What Was Jesus Thinking? And that's at Rev B. Martin on Facebook. All right, you have a blessed day, and thanks for tuning in today. Have a great day, and have a great day. Stay cool.